Hey there. Today I have Adrienne Duffy. She's a co-founder of Big Futures Inc., which is an innovative leadership coach, speaking, and consulting firm who assists individuals and organizations achieve extraordinary and exponential results through the Moon Project and Nexus programs. She is also the author of Soul Sense and the co-author of Pathway to Freedom. Hey, Adrienne, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining us.
André, it's so great to be here and Happy New Year.
You too. Happy New Year. You want to give a little bit of plug for Big Futures before we get going to talk about the why of you, the print?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, Big Futures is a company that has been in business for 38, going on 39 years. And we are really in the business of helping organizations scale and grow, and individuals in a wide variety of leadership roles scale their impact in the world.
Yeah, and
And
I
we've
can attest to that on the individual side because you're an associate coach at Strategic Coach, and I've sat in a few of your sessions. And individual growth is definitely your strength and your passion. Am I
uh,
correct?
Oh yeah, it's a deep-seated motivation for me for sure to help people unleash their potential and realize it. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah, it's
Yeah, and that's why I love connecting with you because of that. And what we're talking about today is the why of you powered by print. And you are the person that introduced that to Strategic Coach and to myself. And can you just explain what the why of you powered by print means and what is it?
all right. Well, just as a little bit of context, I've had many years of experience working with a variety of different psychometric instruments to help people realize their potential and help
Mhm.
organizations thrive. And so I've always been someone who's looking for what is that assessment that can crack the nut on something. Each one of the ones that I've used over the years. And by the way, I had the original training on DISC almost 40 years ago before anyone knew what it was. It was a brand new one on the block. It's
Mhm.
very widely used now. And since that time, I was looking for something that cracked the nut on motivation, André, because in my professional work in Big Futures, working with leaders, I would often hear them say, oh my gosh, if I only knew what motivated this person, I would be able to get them to realize their potential
Right.
or get them to really focus. And what's interesting about motivation is that we don't see motivation until a person takes action. That's an important point.
Mhm.
Once a person takes action, they're motivated to take action, then a myriad of other things kick in. How they're going to take action, what their personality is, their competencies, all these other things. So the why of you is something that I found. I actually met Dr. Paul Hertz, who developed this amazing assessment, uh, is really looking at cracking that nut on motivation. And motivation is the reason someone does something or their general desire or willingness to do something. It's at the unconscious level until it links to action. And then the motivation and the behaviors associated with motivation can shine out into the world. And so we want to have alignment with those things. So the why of you is actually about why we do what we do, why we're motivated, and it helps us to uncover what we call the unconscious motivators of behavior.
Yeah, and like, I think the key word there, I think you said, and I never thought of it this way, that our motivations are unconscious until it's linked to action. I got that correct?
Yep.
And I think that's very important for the listeners to understand is that we don't see motivation until someone takes action ourselves, which then would kick in your other abilities. And I think a lot of negativity with ADHD is around this lack of motivation. My brain does not have motivation. And a lot of people use ADHD an excuse that they're not motivated to do things. And I've always disagreed with that. And I think the conversation we're going to have today, I think will definitely explain how we can find motivation. It's just, yes, it's harder for us to do stuff we're not interested in. But now it's this tool can help us find where to find the motivation to do things.
Yeah, it's finding the deep-seated motivation, but to build on what you're talking about there, Andre, it's finding the alignment between your
I
motivation
like that word.
the behaviors associated with that motivation and outlets in the outside world that will actually let that natural desire that's within us, those needs and desires and the things that we want and the behaviors associated with that, to be able to shine out into the world. And what happens for a lot of people, including our ADHD community, is that it takes some time for us to find the alignment between what's inside and how we can bring it out into the outside world.
Exactly.
It's not a natural thing. It takes some diligence. So if we can make that which is unconscious more conscious, that is a win.
Yeah, and for us to be aware of it definitely helps with problem solving. This is why I like this tool, because it helps with the problem solving and how to get motivated or actually identify why I'm not interested in certain things. So
Yeah.
you said this unconscious motivator. What does that mean?
Unconscious motivators are those inner desires that we have that are, there's a bit of magic to this. We don't know exactly, but I believe that we're born with those things. And so through life, those intrinsic desires are there. And when we actually make those unconscious motivators conscious, then we can actually find and be more clear about making those alignments that we talked about previously to the different activities out in the world that are going to harness those motivations. And that's when, boom, it's like a spark. When the inner connects with the outer and you get that happening, there is a tremendous simplification of that complexity, because you're on. You're where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And this report, the why of you, and the reports that are associated with it, give you an incredible amount of languaging and insight into what those deep-seated motivations are, so that we can be more conscious and aware of making the connections.
Right. So what are these? Are there different types of subconscious motivators? What does this report give us?
It's built on 9 unconscious motivators. And when we do the survey, we actually determine, the survey is automated, of course. It's a very sophisticated instrument, the most sophisticated one that I've used in terms of its algorithm, et cetera. And essentially what it does is it goes through a series of questioning that helps to discern what the top 2 of the 9 unconscious motivators are that it's going to be measuring. And then the report synergize those top 2. So there's 72 combinations of those major minor pairings. We call it the major is the one that came out on top when you take the survey.
Yep.
The minor is the second one. They can be very close. However, there's a synergy between those 2. And the breakthrough in part is understanding and having clear, concise, simple languaging around what those 2 motivators are.
And what are the 9 motivators?
So the 9 motivators are: 1, to be perfect, correct, and right; 2, to get needs met, to be of service; 3, to succeed and achieve; 4, to be special and find meaning in life; 5, to be knowledgeable and smart; 6, to be safe and secure; 7, to enjoy life and be happy; 8, to be strong and self-reliant; and 9, to have peace and harmony.
And so, okay, I got 2 unconscious motivators identified. So myself, I'm a 1-8, and 1 is to be perfect, correct, and right. So justice is very important to me if something's not, and 8 is to be strong and self-reliant. So once I have these 2 numbers, what can I do with those? If I'm working within these, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's almost a question for you. When you got this report back and you were able to assimilate, oh, those 2 things are a deep part of who I am, this continuous improvement and integrity, and this instinctive action and this ability to take charge, where were some of the breakthroughs for you?
The breakthroughs for me was what I really like about this report is best self and shadow self. And then they also list the triggers that would get you into shadow self. And then when I saw those list of triggers, I actually knew the majority of them were valid. I had already figured them out, but they were valid. So can you describe a little more about this best self and shadow self in relation to the print?
Yeah, absolutely. And so within that pairing of unconscious motivators, there are a series of best self behaviors that are associated with those unconscious motivators. Those are very deep, well-founded behaviors that come out into the world once we're motivated. And on a good day, when things are set up for us, the best self behaviors that are associated with those motivators that you have, that 1 and 8, Andre, they just can shine out into the world. However, when the day isn't set up for us and things aren't in flow for us for whatever the reasons might be.
Yes, I become closed-minded, too serious, overly critical, condescending.
Then what will happen, and this is also a breakthrough, is that we'll push the window on those best self behaviors to the point where they move into another set of behaviors that are shadow behaviors. And so that insistence of that taking charge can become a little bit more intense. And when it becomes more intense, if it goes into shadow, it could be or be
Overly
perceived
controlling,
as
blaming, blunt, aggressive, confrontational. Ding, ding,
right.
ding, ding.
So I call this the Oz effect, Andre, because once you get the report, it's like this shot of wisdom and insight.
And clarity.
And clarity. And it's just like when Dorothy landed, it's all black and white in the Wizard of Oz until she lands that house, and then boom, it's Technicolor.
Right.
And many people, when they get their print report back, by the way, print stands for motivational imprint. It's like a fingerprint.
That's what it is. Okay.
Fingerprint, motivational imprint. They get it back and it's like, whoa, everything makes sense. Or many, many things make sense that didn't before, because we've made the unconscious conscious.
Yes.
So
yes. And that's awareness.
It's awareness, but it doesn't leave you hanging. So
that's what I love about it. It's actionable.
Right? Then it says, okay, well, great. I have a best self. I have a shadow. Okay. Yeah, I knew that. Well, why? What are the reasons why we get thrown into that shadow state? And that's your triggers. That's your trigger report. So the triggers are also customized to that 1-8, or in my case, I'm a 4-3, or it could be a 2-7. Whatever those customized triggers are to that particular unconscious motivator pairing, those are your hot buttons. Those are the things in life, without being conscious of it, are the things that will throw us into that zone of shadow.
Now, we discussed the shadow self for the things that I listed for my 1-8. I just want to make sure the listeners are clear. Like your shadow self is listed second. Your best self is actually listed first. And for my best self, for 1 to be perfect, correct, and right, is I got improvement focused. Always want to improve things. I got attention to detail, high integrity, and fair. I'm very fair if I'm in my best self. And with my 8, to be strong and self-reliant, my best self is decisive, honorable, direct, resourceful, and strong. So if I'm working within my motivations, man, I shine like a bright light. But if I get triggered, I can become condescending, especially when things are right or fair, man. I can get in there too serious and overcritical. And what I like about this tool is at the end, you've got a, what do they call that, little checklist, or it's basically a check-in of where you are or what you're doing or what your work. And if you're working within your print, and I really like that. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, this is something that I work with Hertz Group on. And that is that we can take this idea of role alignment.
That's it. Role alignment.
The necessity to align roles with our unconscious motivators. And so each person has a customized page of statements that, if those things were true in a role that they're playing in their life, and we have myriad roles that we play in our life, mother, father, brother, sister, to start with, and then it goes into roles that we play in work or in the community. And so what we're looking for is that, as much as possible, maybe 80-20, that we can find those roles in life that are going to be aligned with the unconscious motivators. Again, we talked about that at the beginning, how important that alignment is. Well, the why of your reports, they don't leave you hanging. And so this role alignment report actually gives you very specific measures of when you're in alignment and when you're not. And
Right. Yeah. And like for me, what I was already sold on this tool. When I looked at it myself, I did it with my wife, and a lot of clarity. It helps with communication and understanding how to motivate or how to really piss on someone's cornflakes actually easily and ruin their day. But I really got an appreciation of this being actionable by one of my teammates in the past. I overheard him starting to give a hard time to our engineering clients. And I was also starting to give them a hard time for asking some questions and talking them out of certain work that they were willing to spend this money. And I decided to do the print on this guy. And it turned out his first unconscious motivator was 5, to be knowledgeable and smart. So when they were questioning him or asking him about his solution, he got triggered, became cynical, unresponsive, slow to act, then became very arrogant because his motivation, he was triggered because his knowledge was challenged. He perceived as they didn't consider him smart. And that really went in the trigger self and when it went downhill. But on the other side, his best self is very good at data gathering, information analysis, very rational, innovative solutions, but that got lost once he got triggered.
Yeah.
And my engineering manager here, we just discovered he's not good at the day-to-day role of overseeing the overall operation of our company. And he actually sat down and opened up his print report, because he's also knowledgeable and smart, but also have peace and harmony. And he looked at the trigger page. I said, why is your report opened up the trigger page? He flips it back to shadow self. He says, I've been in shadow self he's been in shadow for 1.5 years now. It needs to change.
Right.
So he saw his behavior based on the shadow self. But now that we knew that he is a 5'8", or sorry, a 5'9", now we tweaked his role and we set him up to always be motivated to be knowledgeable and smart and to be able to keep peace and harmony. So what we're doing is now he's going to be the person that keeps everyone in line and get along in the projects. Not get along that we're having a hard time. It's just like cohesive wise in the project management of the projects, so he can keep the harmony and peace internally rather than being the one to be laying down the hammer when things aren't going well.
Yeah. And you just get to see then, boom, the energy that's released when someone is aligned with their unconscious motivators in their role. And here's also, and there's something so powerful in what you're talking about there, Andre, because essentially what you did there is you shifted from the golden rule to the platinum rule. So all of us, most of us, grew up learning the golden rule, which is to treat others the way we would want to be treated. Mm-hmm. And essentially, we're going to treat other people often based on those unconscious motivators. There's other elements, of course, but today we're talking about unconscious motivation. Mm-hmm. So people will treat others the way they would want to be treated based on their motivations, their unconscious motivators. Yep. However, if we're opposite or different, and we treat someone the way we would want to be treated, that could be their biggest trigger. And I've had situations where two people will have opposite unconscious motivators. And so they don't have a chance of not triggering each other, but they have this remarkable chance of practicing the platinum rule, which is to treat others the way they would want to be treated based on their unconscious motivators. So your story brought that to light. You did that. Yeah. And now you've released the energy. But the other beautiful thing in this is that when we can have that languaging between two people and understand it, then we can be more conscious of negotiating when and where and how we're going to operate as opposites so that we can stay true to the goals that we're trying to achieve together, which is so important for anyone with ADHD, I'd imagine.
Oh, for sure.
To be able to have that focus.
It also helps you align with what you're good at and what you should be doing. So like when my engineering manager, knowing that he's peace and harmony, when we get into tense situations with clients or projects, I'll bring him in because he can bring peace and harmony. If I say, hey man, I need you to come and get everyone to settle down and just get talking together, he'll be motivated to make it work. in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then like in this case, is any way to make them, to provide them to learn more and to be smarter, I let them do all the research now. I just want to learn
Yeah.
more about this. And hey, if he can be smarter than me, man, he's all in.
Yeah.
And
That
like,
deep-seated motivation, just it can shine out. It's
yeah.
beautiful.
And then like for me, just tell me you're the only one that can figure it out and go for it. No, it's up to you how to do it. Man, now I'm self-reliant. I'm all by myself. I'll do it. I'll do
Yeah,
it
you're
any
gonna
all
take
day, right?
charge.
Well, that's so true. I'm many years ago, I organized a small town. We had the Tilsonburg Airport had a snowbirds, which is like the US Canadian equivalent to US Angel, the Blue Angels aerobatic air show.
Mhm.
And the town didn't want to organize it. So I said, hey, I'll do it. I was the main sponsor. I already did the one previous with them. They said, fine, take it, run with it. We don't want anything to do with it. This is before my print days. So
This is your happy place. Oh my
this was
gosh.
my happy place. Go, go, go. Then they kept coming in and interfering. They start backdoor politics and they start
Trigger.
Oh, was I ever triggered? Yeah, very loudly triggered. And now that I know that what was going on there is they were challenging my self-reliance and to be strong and run it by you told me to run with it. We don't want to do it, but you still interrupted. So
Yeah.
then I was triggered. Then I really became, condescending, very controlling, not very, it was overly, whatever. I was working hard and trying to figure out where they can impede me so I can still maintain control. But now I got that clear. When I got the report, that's probably one of the first things that slapped me in the cross the face was that air show.
Yeah. Well, and that's the odds effect because you just start to see, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And it wasn't right, Adrienne. It wasn't right what they were doing.
No.
It
And
was
guess
not
what?
fair.
They're trying to tell you the perfect, correct, and right way to do
double
something.
whammy.
You already figured out what it was. And
yeah.
So what's the beauty of this is if you were to repeat that experience with the wisdom and experience that you've learned through this tool, then a couple of things. First of all, we're going to get triggered. We can't control the outside world. That's a fact.
Yep.
However, we can control how we respond to triggers.
Correct.
And how it's what your Phil story, like how we're actually going to respond to those triggers, what we're actually going to do to keep ourselves in center, how we get ourselves back to the best self state. All of this can be conscious or unconscious.
So I think you said a good point there. Is how quickly to get out of shadow self is also key. It's not to avoid it. It's also how quickly to get out. That's also that's also success. Yeah. And I think you're right. Like we all get triggered, even with the ADHD brain. If I wake up tired, I'm falling behind. I know it's not going to be a good day, but knowing that what could potentially happen and be prepared for these bad events or potential bad events, I can lay out a game plan on how to reduce any overreactions or whatnot. So that's what I like about this tool. It does provide us an early warning system of
exactly. Beautifully put.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it is about personal accountability to bringing the best of who we are out into the world and staying in that space. And if we can be personally accountable to that, then we release the victim mode of the circumstances outside of ourselves, and we become fully accountable to who is showing up in any circumstance if we choose to say yes to that situation or exiting it if it isn't the right situation. But this gives us an incredible amount of raw material to assist us in making those crucial decisions, sometimes big decisions in life, where we know there's not that alignment. And we know we have this tremendous potential, and
others have this potential. And it's just like your platinum rule, treat others how they want to be treated. By understanding their print and knowing their print, you can treat them the way they prefer to be treated. And I found as a leader, by understanding all these assessments and everyone's strengths, if I can delegate or communicate to their talents, they're easier to buy in and they receive the information quicker and better than, sometimes the way I want to receive information for a project or anything is complete gibberish to other people. So I have to, I can't project it that way, the same way. I have to figure out how they can best receive it. And this is one of the greatest tools out there. So, well, I think lots of information here for people to process. And what I really like about motivation is we don't see motivation until someone takes action. So that's a big conversation. I think we're going to have another day about what motivation will do to take action. And that the unconscious, our motivations are unconscious until it links to an action. And your platinum rule, treat others as others would want to be treated, is key. And that's, as a leader, and for the ADHD brain to understand how to communicate to others, or even communicate how we feel to others, is by understanding how the other person wants to be communicated with and treated. And I think that helps with our awareness, our self-awareness, and it's all about growth. And I really appreciate your time here today, Adrienne.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's wonderful to connect with someone on this. And Andre, you have a lot of passion for this as well, in terms of supporting that community for realizing their potential. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have Adrienne's contact information in the show notes as well, and a link to the print so you can get more information. And I've always said this, I'm going to stick to it, even if you disagree with me or not, the listener I'm referring to, that our ADHD brains can be motivated. By understanding your needs, you can get into hyperfocus easier and quicker, and the print is a great tool for that, and I highly recommend it. Now, one last thought I would like you, the listener, to think about is what things motivates you every time. Think back to projects or things that you just got into hyperfocus or you got interested in. Along these lines of the unconscious motivator, is there a pattern to that kind of work or task that really gets you motivated every time? Think about that and let me know what your thoughts are. You can email me at andre@andreb.ca. Love to hear what you think about this. And Adrienne, thanks again. And to the listeners, don't forget the platinum rule is to do unto others as they want done unto them. Talk to you soon. And thanks again, Adrienne.
Thank you so much.